I lost my limb.
Biosecurity chemicals are counterfeit.
In 1 week, we lost 21,000 chicken.
The sad reality about counterfeit today is that it affects every part of our lives, from the skin and hair products we consume every single day, to household materials, refrigerated drinks, you can name but just a few. It, however, gets more alarming when it gets into the daily food we have on our plates for our children at home every single day. Now, the recent headlines about contaminated meat here in Kampala have gotten everyone talking, but not until we talk chicken. The panel is here. My name is Andrew Kabura, and it's next. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the show as we continue talking counterfeit, which of course has been a field that is growing year in, year out. As a matter of fact, the experts now describe it as a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's wasting so many economies, and more importantly, it's taking away both our health and our wealth. But it's probably more tricky when it comes down to our meals, because everyone talks about counterfeit, but for some reason, so many people decide not to talk about it because it's involved in other aspects of our lives until it comes down to our plates at home. And then we realize it affects us and our children, the same family we are trying to feed every single day. Now, it's more scary for us here at the Anti-Counterfeit Network, Africa, when we start realizing that food like chicken, which is super popular to everyone across the African continent and the planet, is in trouble as well. And to discuss that, I have a panel of able members who fully have been in this very field and can give us everything to do with the details. And as always, I'll start off with the man at the extreme left, Mr. Fred Mwema, who is a practicing lawyer and also the Director Legal and Corporate Affairs at ACN. We've discussed counterfeit before, and we've discussed how it's a hard issue sometimes to understand. So I would rather ask, do we have counterfeit when it comes down to live animals?
Andrew, we have counterfeits in virtually everything. We have counterfeit these days, even in our religions. You have counterfeit Bibles, okay? So you can have counterfeit chicken or cattle if they are genetically manipulated. I have been to a country where when you are buying food, they will ask you whether you like the organic or the modified one. Their chicken out there, the egg will be conditioned in such a way that every day the bird grows so fast and you have a chicken in 1 or 2 weeks. I have seen that. And the chicken grows and it's pumped up, I don't know, with chemicals. Many people are eating that. So that kind of product can go for a counterfeit because it is lacking in the necessary or required ingredient of a chicken as we understand it to be. So the issue of counterfeits that we are dealing with at ACN deals with both living and manufactured things, provided we use them in our lives.
All right, thank you very much, Council Mwema. Let me move to my second panelist, and there is no better panelist to have on the show today as well. From Yokuku, a supply chain manager, Mr. Godwin Chegombe. I think we should first let our viewers know what Yokuku is all about.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. It's a privilege. Yokuku is the largest, I can call it now the largest, manufacturer of fresh and frozen chicken in Uganda, and looking at being the biggest in East Africa in the near future. And we do primarily broilers. Yes, this is a very important discussion because it touches life.
Yeah.
And this is fraud. This is fraud. And fraud, because of the growth in the dynamics of a society now, there's been a collision of events, climate change and the likes of scarcity of resources, which has led to a breeding ground for fraudsters to actually make money. as we go along, we can always go into the details of each of those.
We definitely are going into the details because there's counterfeit almost at every stage when it comes down to the maturing of the chicken, which really brings me to Dr. Ochola, of course, a private vet, that's number one, but also the director at Asima Agric Concern Limited. By your line of business, you deal with day one chicks. And that's why I'm super excited to have you here because you know everything about the first day until they're at our plate. There are so many different stages that we have to deal with in there. But let me start off with farm. How much are you struggling with when it comes down to counterfeit? Because you have feeds to deal with, you have medicines to deal with, and you have the general environment. I've seen how delicate these young chicks are. How much is counterfeit a problem at the earlier stage? Because I'm meant to understand that affects the quality of meat at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So when we look at the feed is a very, very important component of the feed that the chicken eats because it constitutes about 70% of our cost. And in the feed, it's the feed that determines the growth, that determines the quality of what you will get at the end. So whatever the chicken takes, if it eats feed which is not of good quality, it will certainly affect the quality of chicken at the end of the chain. So because of the many factors of poor quality raw materials that make the feed, we are actually getting compromised chicken, the chicken that is not befitting for human consumption. So we need to look at a good quality feed to get a good quality product at the end of the chain. Now, apart from the feed, you could also look at the practices on the farms that a farmer will get the chicken. He will need to start the chicken in the brooder, but whatever wrong he will do in the brooder will affect the chicken at the end of the chain because everything starts with the foundation. If the foundation is wrong, everything is wrong. That means the chicken will be diseased in its life. The vaccinations will not be effective because the immunity is low, and consequently, you will get a poor yield in terms of weight. For a chicken that is required to be consumed by the public. But worse still, if the immunity is compromised, then disease sets in. Any diseased chicken is not fit for human consumption because then when you slaughter it, you are actually passing on the diseases to the public. So apart from that, of course, in the process of after doing the farming, you get your product, you still need to go through the process of slaughtering it, taking it into the entire chain of chilling and packing, and eventually getting it down to the consumer in the supermarkets. Now, along all these chains, any breach of procedure in terms of chilling, compromised temperatures, because the chilling should be optimum, the temperatures should be low, or poor use of the kind of vehicles that you use to transport your chicken from the farm or from the processing plant, whatever it is, to the point you want it, or even poor packaging. All this will compromise the chicken and can further contaminate it. That poses a danger to the public.
The one question I've always wanted to ask, and Godwin, I'll come to you. I've heard people traditionally say, "Nze nkoko njagala nganda," and yet the so-called nkoko nganda has less supervision in terms of its feeds, in terms of its treatment. On the other hand, actually, your kuku and chicken are easily more supervised. At what point do we bring the vet in here? And at what point does the nkoko nganda be very unsafe for our own consumption?
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. That's the slogan, Njagala nkoko nganda. However, if you go back many years ago, the nkoko nganda people have in their mind was a nkoko nganda which was not eating meat. Today's nkoko nganda is eating meat. You'll find people doing feed using animal products like blood from abattoirs, crushed in the names of blood meal. That blood is carrying animal genes. And you're thinking it's nkoko nganda. It's not nkoko nganda anymore. It is something else.
Council member, should we bring, because I want to step away from the legal side for a second and focus on consumer behavior. Should we put more burden on the consumers now? People who travel out of town, we find lots of roasted chicken on the streets. Even here in Kampala, lots of roasted chicken on the streets. We don't know how this chicken was cleaned before the roasting. We don't know where it came from. We didn't know what its condition was. we're not even sure about its own regulation. Should the consumers maybe take a step back and blame ourselves for a second?
You see, I think the situation in relation to chicken is worse at all levels, not just the chicken that people eat on the highways, because that chicken is supposed to be regulated, for example, under the Food and Drugs Act. That is, you must sell this food in a gazetted area and so on, and it must be fit for purpose, which is not observed. But the area I see which is even calls for more self-regulation, as opposed to cattle, it's not very easy for Godwin or Andrew to slaughter a cow today when you live in your backyard.
Yeah.
But right here in town, it's very easy to slaughter chicken. And whereas the meat ordinance defines meat to include poultry meat, which would mean the same principles apply. You need a butcher's license. But how many people apply for a butcher's license to slaughter a chicken? We don't, even if we have standards set by UNBS in respect of the abattoirs and slaughterhouses, do we actually have abattoirs or slaughterhouses specific for chicken? So as a result, the issue of chicken becomes falls under a regime almost of deregulation, as if we don't have regulation at all, and yet ostensibly the laws are there. So the opportunity for contamination and failure, it's very, very easy for somebody to have. Anybody can have in his backyard a small farm, a unit for broilers or layers, and he'll walk on the street and buy some medicine and feed his. So many people, in respect of chicken, I think if there is contamination and poisoning of the food, it's more in chicken than it is in meat. Though the alarm bells are in respect of meat now, but I think there is much, much more problem now in respect of chicken. And probably that's one area where I would say that we need to have a specific, maybe poultry policy, because there is a meat policy.
Yes.
And I know they tend to mix everything. Their turkeys and chickens are all there and all ducks. But probably this being a sector which accounts for maybe 30–40% of all the meals we're having on a daily basis, people are eating chicken. I think there is a need for greater intervention and more awareness to the consumers, because everybody thinks he's an expert in chicken.
Yes.
I have a butcher's license, I'm sure you also have. It's slaughtered. So it's a big problem. But again, we are falling sick.
Now, we're going to take that break now, but when we come back, we shall show you a very shocking story. See, when it comes down to chicken, there is us, the consumers, and then there's our friends, our relatives who go into the industry fully for business. They invest a lot of money to make sure they can bring the chickens in, grow them, and actually sell them at very high profits. But what happens when counterfeit steps into your business? How much of a loss do you think you're going to make? When we come back, we'll bring you that shocking story.
I lost my limb.
Biosecurity chemicals are counterfeit.
In 1 week, we lost 21,000 chicken.
Welcome back from the break as we continue shedding more light and throwing the awareness all over the place when it comes down to counterfeit and trying to explain how big the problem is. Now, right before we went into the break, we were talking chicken, we're talking about poultry, and we're talking about how pretty much everyone that gets involved in the business can actually get affected. Now, there are folks out there who think it's for the ordinary man who is actually in trouble when it comes down to counterfeit. But I tell you what, anyone and everyone can be affected when it comes down to an industry, like I said, is growing in leaps and bounds every single year. Take a look.
Some time back, about 1 year ago, I lost a whole flock which was about to lay to Newcastle. And I had been vaccinating Newcastle. Poultry farming is something which you will do like this and get millions of shillings very quickly. But at the same time, it is something you do like this and lose all. Now, in poultry, we use a lot of chemicals, especially in what we call biosecurity. A farm is supposed to be fenced, and at the entrance, you must have either a tire bath and you must have a foot bath as well. Now, this bath must contain a chemical, a disinfectant, which will not allow germs to enter your farm. If there is anything in the poultry industry that is being counterfeited at the moment, it is these chemicals which we use in tire baths and foot baths. The chemical commonly known as Diaz. Some of these outbreaks you hear on poultry farms are due to lack of biosecurity caused by you have products which are counterfeit. The biosecurity chemicals are counterfeit. And I have been a victim of some of this because I'm a very big consumer of these products. I think the costs involved in the poultry industry are quite staggering. It is something, if somebody did research, would be startled by the results. Uganda, we have advantage that we have almost all our ingredients in poultry are got from here, about 98%, 97-98%, unless the other countries around us. That's why we produce more chicken than all the countries around us. So we are a suffering industry, poultry. We are a suffering industry because of counterfeit, albeit silently. It is affecting food security, it is affecting our employment, it is affecting our health, government revenue. I think employment is even more. Because you know the chicken industry employs a lot of people. Because of these fake products by unscrupulous traders, the industry is still down there. Instead of using less to do big, you use big to do big. So you are losing money. It is costly in the end to counterfeit. And I'm very, very happy that you are bringing this issue up. I hope the Ugandans are going to be sensitized and become aware. And I mean all Ugandans. If you can have from Parliament that this is a kuyiya, oh no, it shouldn't be.
Well, there you go. The Commissioner of Prisons, Mr. Johnson Byabashaija, is one of the victims who actually has a thing or two to say about counterfeit. Councilman, just when I thought it's either ordinary man who is in trouble, this is the man who is so powerful in government. But listen to what he says. He's actually happy this kind of awareness is coming up.
Actually, Andrew, that video is significant in many ways. Because at SCN, we do not want to monopolize talking about the problem. We would like the consumers and those affected to also speak about the problem in their own words. So that is extremely significant to have a testimonial or a testimony from an affected stakeholder. Right there you have probably the biggest or one of the biggest farmers of poultry. He's a veterinary doctor by profession, and he's been at this for a long time. In the video, of course, he shows the relief that something is being done about it. But in fact, do we not have a ministry responsible to handle this problem? We do, but like we've always said, the problem is that people are not doing their work. And we, the consumers and other stakeholders who are affected, we are doing nothing to make them do their work. But in the video as well, there is a bigger problem, which is far away from the farm and the plate where you're having the food. He's talking about the fake inputs, the chemicals that are used. It is a very sad affair. Most of the poultry farmers will go downtown in Kampala to get from dealers, from traders. You know, anybody can import these things. How they get licensed, only God knows. And the farmer is unable to tell what is genuine and what is fake.
Yeah.
If these are imported chemicals, vaccines and medicines that are used in poultry, who is at the gate to check that the importation, who is inspecting, who is licensing the importer?
Dr. Okoth, when I look at the line of what Asima Agri-Concern Limited does, I'm looking at day-old chicks, I'm looking at feed additives, and I want to start at feed additives. How much of a problem do we have here? And you're one of the educated few who stand up and say, I'm going to do research, I'm going to make sure I get what is legitimate. But there's so many poultry farmers deep in the villages who don't even know where to get these feeds from. How much of a problem is here? How much of counterfeit are we facing at this level?
Thank you very much, Andrew. I think in as far as the feed additives are concerned, that is a sector which is not very regulated. Anyone can wake up as a trader. He can buy a feed additive. He can import from Nairobi, he can import from China, can import from anywhere. And because some of these products have not yet been put in the standard in our country, so you end up having these products in the market, and then it doesn't stop there, because when it gets in the market, there are other people who pick them and they add some other things to them. So they adulterate, they say it may be a good product, but it comes in and it's adulterated.
What,
and it's
fatten the
passed on.
chicken?
No, to get more quantity.
Okay.
So it is important the farmer should know where he's buying from. Whom is he buying from? Is he registered, not registered? Does he have ethics? Because all this matters.
Mr. Chegomba, we talk about additives, Mr. Mwema talks about regulation at the highest level, but let's focus on the consumer now. The slaughterhouses, if I could use that for a term. And I don't want to focus on Yo Kuku, because Yo Kuku has been known to have its professional standards.
Yes.
The reason we called you here for the show. But we talk about the general industry. At what point are we in trouble? Is that the slaughterhouses? How well are they catered for? What are the regulations at that point? And who follows them up to make sure the standard and quality of meat is not contaminated at all?
Andrew, the problem actually is very big and deep. Like my predecessor said, it starts with the inputs. Now at the slaughterhouse, there is some things you can change about the quality of a chicken, but there are those you cannot change if they've happened already. Chicken has had the feed in its system. What the chicken eats is the quality of the chicken. Where are we going wrong? Away from Yokuku, who are doing it the professional way. For a small farmer out there who is not doing it the professional way, we must be able to draw the line between the good and the bad. You could buy those chemicals, they are genuine, for example. What are you going to use them for? When are you supposed to withdraw them? There is no awareness. People are slaughtering chicken when it still has chemicals running in the system. And that is going to give birth to the common bacterial infections and resistances in human beings.
Dr. Okoth, I want to again focus on the consumer out there. What side effects are we facing? What problems are we, the chicken lovers, facing now? Because of these, I don't know if I should call them mistakes or these loopholes in the growth of these of these beautiful birds. What are the side effects the consumers are facing at this point?
I think one of the biggest challenges with the poultry meat is when chicken that is slaughtered is diseased, because if you get a chicken which is infected with salmonella, it will straight away go to the human as salmonella. If you get a chicken which is infected with the avian influenza, you could even get some people dying. But we have other diseases which come on because of contamination, like E. coli, that will affects more of our children, because children are more sensitive to some of these diseases more than the adults. But if you look at the other areas that we have issues to do with the quality issues in the butchery themselves, that there is no way you can have a good chicken coming online, but it's contaminated at the end point by the last person who sells the chicken. Now that contamination is something which is we can't work on it, because it's at the end. So we simply need to advise farmers and our public that you need to cook that chicken if you have to consume it, cook it well, because at every stage there's a possibility of getting contamination.
Because we've been talking about meats at the abattoirs and how the hygiene there is sometimes questionable. It should be the same with chicken. Chicken attracts flies as well. And are we having formalin in chicken as well, or any of these so-called preservatives now?
Yes, there's a possibility of having formalin because basically they're all perishables. They all attract flies. The only beauty is that I see in the markets what the people do is that they have a deep freezer and they have a sample on top of the deep freezer. Maybe that one has minimized the contamination with formalin, but we cannot take any chances.
We can't take any chances, but also we must keep asking ourselves every single time, this is a meal, this is food. And this is why I guess it's such a controversial topic. The hygiene at different abattoirs across town must be questionable. How often are you in contact with vets who go out and check this meat? How many laboratories do we have that check the quality of this meat before it's sent out? Or are we hoping it's safe?
We're not relying entirely on chance and hope. We actually, for Yokuku, we have more than 2 vets on the ground, and we liaise with the government closely. We always have a government vet coming through, and we are privileged to have that. Someone who may not have that privilege will have that challenge, like you put it across. Access to vets, access to labs.
Councilmember, from a consumer's perspective, and I'm looking at it now, should we be more worried, us who love chicken? Because first of all, I'm thinking it goes through the same problems the meat goes through, same abattoirs, which are not that much regulated in terms of cleanliness and standards. But like you said before, there is more private butchers when it comes down to chicken. And that probably worsens the entire situation.
Yeah, worse is a good word to use because as consumers, unfortunately, we never benefit even when the law becomes tighter. An example in point is the law regulating standards, the UNBS law. It was amended in 2013. It's now 3 years ago, 4 years ago, to widen the powers of the council and the executive director in respect of perishables, to be able to move in, get hold of the perishable and order for its destruction. But how many consumers out there have seen UNBS swing in and get hold of diseased chicken or whatever and destroy it? I mean, we see this on the highways, the chicken mounted on the sticks, facing the sunshine and the dust. I don't know, petroleum fumes, everything is in there. We've not seen anyone going to set up a checkpoint or a roadblock or whatever at those places to advise consumers on the buses that, look, this, to grab that chicken, because the law says they can actually grab it and say it's not fit for consumption. If you do not take care to make sure that you are eating the right foods, then you're in trouble. But I think overall, again, the issue goes back to the regulation. We have laws, but we need to have a rallying call. If the general public rises up and demands that the district veterinary officer, the RDC, because RDCs are known for going around and stopping, I don't know, political rallies and so on. Why do they not stop the people who are selling fake food? Isn't that part of the work? Because that is part of things that threaten security. That is my own view. Anything that threatens food security also threatens national security. So I think the extent of the problem is beyond this table. This problem is in your bedroom, is in your saucepan, is on your plate, is in your car. This problem is humongous.
Well,
and it needs all of us.
It's humongous, needs all of us as well. That's what the council is saying. We've got to take that break now. But when we come back from the break, we talk about transportation of chicken. We've seen how, wow, they've always been transported in town. We ask the experts if that affects the quality of meat. We also talk about regulation.
Upside down.
Upside down, yes, upside down. We talk about regulation as a way forward. But also we clear the public opinion that chicken Luombo is is safer. I don't know how true that is, but I'm sure the experts will tell us. Someone was saying chicken in Luombo has less toxins, toxins go out faster. The experts are here when we come back from the break.
I lost my limb.
Biosecurity chemicals are counterfeit.
In 1 week, we lost 21,000 chicken.
Welcome back as we continue focusing on what is happening in the chicken side of our feed. Because everyone has been talking about counterfeit in our plates, or on our plates, you could say, in terms of the future, side effects, how much we shall be affected moving forward. And the councilman was saying the most tricky part is that most of us don't even know this is happening until the side effects eventually start to show heads, which is quite interesting. But before we went for the break, Dr. Ochola Okoth, we're talking about different side effects, but I'd also talked about something to do with Luombo. There's public opinion out there that the chicken you prepare with Luombo is actually much better and much safer.
No, in reality, the toxins are chemical substances. You may kill you kill the causative agent, but you don't kill the chemical. The chemical remains. So even when you cook your Luombo, you still have the chemical embedded in that meat. The only difference between a Luombo and an ordinary chicken is that a Luombo is steamed, the boiling point is higher, and the other one is lower. So the safeness is relative. That of course this one has got higher temperature, most of the bacteria and so on will have died, but the chemical remains.
Before I come to Godwin and talk about a completely different aspect when it comes down to chicken, the way it's transported. We meet border riders all over town, bicycle riders all over town, even on trucks coming from the villages. Buses. On top of buses, the legs are tied up, it's hanging from Kabale to Kampala. That's about 5 hours. Does that change the quality of the meat eventually?
Actually, that is against is breaking the law, because now we're having animal welfare coming in on board. Chicken from the farm is supposed to be transported on crates. Humanely, with with ventilation on open tracks.
No, I think you can't say humanly.
Yeah.
That's for humans. Maybe chickenly.
Yes. Yeah. And whoever transports it the other way is breaking the law. Actually, we are supposed to arrest them. It's unfortunate that we haven't yet reached that level. We have not done our part. We are supposed to arrest them, stop a bus, tell them you can actually take them to the police, and the law is there, which handles that.
Godwin, we've heard of stories to do with sausages. Yes. Sausages are such a delicacy to a very big population, at least chicken sausages here in Uganda, here in Kampala. Myself, I like my chicken sausage. But we've had stories about them being just wrong. And the question I would rather ask, is it to do with the preparation, which maybe doesn't have much to do with the farmer and what quality it is, or is it more of the quality of the meat? Where is the problem in there when we have issues with chicken sausages?
With the sausages, the devil is in the detail. Because the meat is minced, you won't know actually what part of the chicken was minced. Was it the intestine or was it the head? So for as long as you're going to get sausages from unrecognized suppliers,
so the head can make a sausage also.
Of course, it can. If you can mince a bone, then how about a chicken head? Remember, chicken only takes 30 days, so the bone is not so hard. You can mince it if you prefer. However, I'm not saying all the sausages are from minced heads and intestines.
But the chicken sausage is actually, most of it is meat imported from outside.
Yes.
And it's deboned meat.
Yes.
But sometimes they mix old, expired meat with good meat.
But how are we importing? I'm told it's against the law.
Yeah, but they allow imported deboned chicken meat for sausage making, because we don't have the mechanism to debone
for
here in our country.
But is that the only importation happening?
No, the other importations taking place, but they are not within the law. They are outside the law. These people need to be brought to book. Yes.
Councilmember, we don't even know where this chicken is coming from, the imported chicken. We don't know what condition it is in. We just receive it on our plates and have it.
Our research is that the imports are from Brazil.
And
A lot of chicken
and
is imported from Brazil illegally. Customs should not be allowing it to come in because this is prohibited. But it comes on, and then of course, it's, if you like, nameless. It wouldn't show the source or country of origin. A chicken is a chicken. When it's undressed, it looks like any other.
And the price is, of course, much cheaper than the locally grown chicken.
Yes.
And that defeats my understanding. How a product from so far can be so cheap if it is genuine.
there are also chicken coming from Ukraine. That's what I heard. Yeah, they're coming in the country and they are pretty cheap. So they are actually suffocating our market, and nobody's doing anything about it.
Which is what humans would rather do any day. I would rather buy a cheaper piece of chicken than a more expensive. But I want us to move forward, and I want us to find a way forward now here, Council, and look at the law and look at the regulation. You've talked about self-regulation, which, and I would want you to really explain this to myself and the viewers. It leaves me confused. When I watch the Mr. Johnson Byabashija video, and he talks about this awareness going to Parliament and government as well, then you talk about self-regulation. I'm inclined to think government just won't do it. Let's self-regulate and move forward. Is that what you mean?
I mean, I think all that you're saying. But self-regulation is not very new to us. In the medical world, we do a lot of self-regulation with what they call over-the-counter drugs. There are those drugs you can go to a pharmacy, prescription, and you medicate. So this is a fairly well-known thing to us. Now, I don't think it should be so difficult to self-regulate when we have to handle our chickens. But I think self-regulation without the right information will be useless self-regulation. Can we have the right information, right from getting the right breed? If we have the doctors here to advise, if you are a farmer, get proper advice on the right breed that you get into your farm, the inputs, the feeds, what is the source of the feeds. We have learned here that the quality of the final product is determined by the quality of what goes in, the feeds. And then there are also issues to do, Doctor, with the houses. You know, it is not every house that can provide a habitation for the chicken. So we don't have standardization. Everybody builds houses the way they want. In some places, you find the chickens are stepping on themselves.
Sleeping under the bed.
Sleeping under. In others, you'll find a red light, others a yellow light.
I think the real challenge here is that since there are no standards set out there, and not very many people consult before they go into the business, so you'll find beginners normally begin in a very crude, elementary way.
With a try and error.
Yeah, try and error. They mess up here and there. They lose some few shillings here and there, and then later on they improve. But generally speaking, even the people who you'd consider middle class, who should be knowing the basics, it's not very, very well up there.
Doc, I was talking about Asima Greek Concern Limited, and as one of the pointers is services and consultancy, which really makes me wrap this up by asking, how much of this, not specifically now, from government, from the regulators, how much of this is being pushed across the entire nation at district level, at sub-county level? Because what's quite interesting is the chicken we are feeding is not only from him, it's not only from Yokuku, it's from so many farmers across the country. Are we having this much sensitization to all these farmers at a professional level? Do you feel there's enough information going out there, or should it be a way forward?
No, I wouldn't say there's enough information. We try our best, but we can do more. And in fact, empowering the public is the best thing we can do, because if they know, they have the information, they are in the right senses to make the right decisions upon their lives. So let us do what we can to empower them, as we also look to government to do its part as a regulator.
Of course, I'll end up with Council Member, but I would rather start off with you. Packaging. This is being changed left, right, and center. So at some point, I think I'm eating Yokuku, or I'm eating another verified product from a company that's also very verified. But we're having these fakes come through. People come out with different packaging, and it's all over the market. At a company level, are you putting any measurements in there? Because like we have said, the regulation seems to be a trick at the moment, but is that a problem you're facing in the industry? And I'll end up with the council to know what the regulation should be saying about this.
Yeah, thank you. In the start, we had a lot of problems, around that packaging and actually counterfeiting, and us having systems of traceability in our case, it makes our life easier. If you're going to buy a product from our side, we make sure you go with a receipt. We make sure you go with a barcoded product. In the event of any after effects, we can always trace that product back to our batches, all the way up to the farm and to the feed mills, which may not be happening anywhere elsewhere, but for us we have that and it helps. On the issue of counterfeiting the labels, Ugandans are very talented. They can do anything. They have given us a challenge as well. So we've also pushed in and injected more money to try and counter that by bringing in security features in our packaging. We do it in Dubai, and that is actually exporting jobs. If the government was to help, those jobs would be happening. We'll be staying here, but now we have to export those jobs of putting security features in packaging.
Council, as you conclude and give us a way forward, is that the hardest way to fight counterfeit? As long as you have folks out there who can forge your packaging, I don't know if they can get these watermarks. Is that the hardest thing? Because I don't know how many of the consumers look at these details.
Yeah, but you see, if you're going to put the holograms or watermarks and so on, and then you're not they cannot be machine read at the supermarket where you're buying. You know, some consumers are not conscious. You buy a product and the cashier will put it across the machine and there's no blip, but somehow they put it in your tray and trolley and you go. That means they have not read and it's not captured. So I think you have got to do the packaging. Of course, as consumers, we need to look out for especially any product that is nameless or that doesn't have any mark or trademark or product name and so on. Just know it's fake. Kids are going back to school now. I have seen a lot of cereals. Somebody says, may I buy downtown my cereals? And they come with a huge packet. It has no name. You don't know the manufacturer. You don't know expiry date, nothing. Just know that is fake. Same with your chicken. And sometimes how to tell that it's fake, they will misspell the name. If it is your cuckoo, if you see a yakuku or a yaka or something, just know it is fake. There are many ways of doing it, but it's all the need for vigilance. But I think as a way forward, I know we like our roasted chicken. Many Ugandans will like roasted chicken on the highways. Can we start by having a proper inspection and certification of this chicken? Starting tomorrow, let us see Ministry of Health, the medical guys and the vets go to these open air markets and win the public confidence by checking and saying this meat is okay or is not okay, or shutting down the markets. Because this is a medium. This is a medium through which all these bacterial infections we are getting, a lot of the fake chicken actually gets sold out there on the road, because these are commercial vendors. It's not that they're cooking a meal to be eaten at home. He's cooking to sell as many pieces as possible. So I imagine that's where the fakes would be pushed.
And if you want to know, most of that chicken which is sold on the buses, they are actually rubbed against the body of the bus. And they are full time in contact with the dust and that kind of environment.
And the body of the sellers.
The body of the sellers, the clothes of the sellers. So eating that chicken is tantamount to poisoning oneself.
Doc, thank you very much. Council Mwema, Director Legal and Corporate Affairs at ACN, thank you very, very much for coming and having your input on this one. Such a big topic. Certainly we shall have so many other episodes when it comes down to chicken. Mr. Godwin Chegombe, thank you very much as well. Supply Chain Manager at Yokuku. And of course, Dr. Ochola Okoth, a vet, and also the Director at Asima Agri Concern Limited. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
It's a big topic. There are so many questions. Like we've always said, very, very few answers. The best we can say from the ACN show really is just be vigilant. Make sure the chicken you're eating at home, the chicken you're feeding your children and probably the future generations
and yourself
is well researched. Make sure you're going out there and making sure from at least all these supermarkets, you're picking out a few that you think have chicken that is from certified labels, like Yokuku.
Thank you very much.
That's an advert we probably shall have to discuss about when the show gets done. Thank you very much for joining us as well. Hope you guys can be more vigilant. As always, there's so many fake products out there, and as always, they're taking away both our health and wealth. We're just saying, don't be fake, buy, and sell genuine.